This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social in association with Forged Irish Stout, freebets.com and Empire Fight Store. Always a pleasure. I've got a smile on my face. It's Wednesday evening. Mr. Jamie Moore is the man in front of me. I always like speaking to you, Jamie. It's always good vibes. How are we, mate?
What's happening, Pash? Okay, mate.
All good, my friend. All good. How was? I know we just had a little natter off camera, but just for the people watching, you were able to have a little bit of time off over Christmas and the New Year. Nice for you.
Yeah, a couple of 2.5 weeks been off the gym, which is unheard of, really. So first time we've had any time off the gym, apart from sort of being away for fights and stuff in 7 years. So it was nice to have a bit of family time and yeah, just wind down, recharge the batteries, and ready to go again this year.
I was going to say, with the traveling circus that is boxing and how busy that you've been over the last sort of couple of years or so, a year alone is enough to take it out of you, right? You do need it, and you can also appreciate that time as well.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone thinks it's all glamour and stuff, and I do get it, and I understand that we are luckier than a lot of people in terms of we do a job what we love. But people think you go, say you go to Vegas for a fight, and people expect it. Oh, you're in Vegas, but you basically sat in your hotel room half the time, sort of either just relaxing or waiting for the next training session or waiting for the weigh-in. So it's not like you're away on holiday.
You
So
then come back and you're jet lagged, and you've got all the other lads that you need to go straight back to train, right?
yeah, exactly. And listen, you'll know more than me. I think we had something like 30 fights this year from out of our gym, which is like a busy year. Um, but you're at a boxing show more than me, so as well as I do what it's like. You're living out of a suitcase half the time, and listen, I'm not complaining because I love the job I do. I'm just saying that it's not all sort of glamour. It's you're on FaceTime to your family out more times than you are in person.
Look, like any job, it obviously has its pros and cons, doesn't it? Right? And then not that it's a con because you get to see the world and everything, but look, it's still a job to you at the end of the day, right? And it is a lot of time away.
It is, and just thank God for FaceTime because we'd all be screwed. If it was back in the day when I was sort of fighting early doors, then you'd be putting 20p in the phone box and speaking to people in a payphone.
I weren't quite around then. I suppose just lastly on that topic, then, before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, one thing that is very nice, and I know that you're able to share a lot of experiences with all of the family, but Mikey, your son, someone who's got a lot of influence and enjoys being around the lads, and whenever I see him, he's always involved in everything. That must be a real sort of proud moment for you to be able to bring him round, and I know firsthand just from seeing it how much he enjoys it.
Yeah, mate, I love it. There's not many people who get to work with the kids, and even when I first retired from boxing myself, and I was working for Sky doing the punditry. I used to take him everywhere with me. So he'd be ringside. He'd sit in my seat while I was sort of on this side on the cameras, sort of analysing fights and stuff like that. So I've loved to be in a position to sort of take him everywhere with me. But I've also loved the fact that he's interested in it and he wants to come and do that. So yeah, the sort of time you'll no one can ever take off you. Then those type of memories they'll last forever, don't they?
Well, firstly, then I've seen that you've got a new ring canvas. I'm going to shout out the guys at Everlast because what a lovely bunch of lads. I know that some of them were down there today doing a bit of filming and everything. That ring looks the absolute bollocks, mate.
It is the way it looks. It is. It's the absolute donkeys conkers, mate. And yeah, the great guys down there, and they were down doing some filming with Cameron today. So Cameron's done a deal with him, and yeah, it's some ring now, mate. He'll take some topping.
Well, just a quick reflection then. You mentioned 2023 and how busy it was. I suppose highs and lows, right? And as a trainer, you never really get to process that. I remember obviously you had the loss in the rematch over in Dublin, and then find yourself in Belfast back again the week after with Cameron. So, you've just got to keep back on it really. But reflecting on the year as a whole, 2023, what would you sort of come out of it and say?
Massively successful year on the whole for the gym. Obviously, like you say, a couple of setbacks towards the end, but progression. I think the main thing what you talk about is progression. I think Chantelle was towards the end of 2022 fulfilled a dream of becoming an undisputed champion, and then the beginning of 2023 it was a little bit sort of stuttery, if you want to sort of bit of an explanation in a word. It was like she was trying to get a fight or a bigger type of fight, and nothing was happening. Then all of a sudden, Katie Taylor calls her out of the blue. So that sort of jump started it for her, and then leading us into the summer. Then she went in there and done what everyone thought was the impossible, and what summer it was. So the rematch was what it was. It was closer than the first fight, and I've heard my views on the referee, but it was a close fight, and you can't argue about the winner. But it sets it up nicely if people want to see the trilogy.
Well, you took my next question sort of out of my mouth then. I suppose let's go into it. When I caught up with Eddie, um, God, I suppose maybe to the back end of 2023. Actually, no, it was Frank. I think it was conversations with the Irish government about that Croke Park fight. Look, we know, I suppose there's so many ways of looking at it, right? We know that Chantelle desperately wanted the second fight to be in the UK, and she almost wanted to have that homecoming opportunity. It wasn't to be, but there is the promotional argument of the sort of financials and everything that come into it. Now the dust has settled. It does look like the reality is that it goes to Ireland for the third time, and you're happy as a team to take that third fight.
Well, happy to take the fight, but I just think it's mental to even suggest that. I've never known a trilogy, for instance, at that level where one person had home advantage every time. And I know life isn't fair sometimes, but if we're talking about it being from a financial point of view and not from a point of view of giving someone an advantage, is there's plenty of places that, especially in the current market, which are financially more viable than doing the fight. And I understand Eddie wants to do that homecoming fight for Katie outdoors. I get it, I understand, but I'm not in the Katie Taylor business. I'm in the Chantelle Cameron business, and for me, it just makes sense to do it somewhere at least neutral. And if it's a financial thing, then do it in somewhere like Abu Dhabi, where there's a site fee, where there's money involved, and it can be a fairer venue.
We've seen stuff like we've seen Turkey Shake put on the two best female tennis players recently in a clash with each other. We've not yet seen ladies boxing go over there, but you mentioned Abu Dhabi where Chantelle beat McCaskill, and I'm sure we probably will see that Saudi Arabian venture into female boxing. Were you sort of surprised that those things were never discussed?
Well, I've no idea what's been discussed, to be honest, because I'm not involved in that. I'm the coach. I'm not the manager. I'm not the promoter. I just get sort of drip fed information as and when it comes through. So maybe those conversations have took place. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm just looking at it purely from my fighter's point of view and the way what I think would be more of a fair option. But to be honest with you, I don't know where the conversation's at with that fight, and I don't know where they're up to.
Well, if the opportunity does come again, and we know that sort of Chantel will be pretty pissed off and sort
Hey,
of
what a first all women fight that would be in Saudi Arabia. I
absolute.
mean, talk about kicking it off with a bang. That'd be massive fight for him to have over there.
If and I suppose it looks like it's maybe leaning that way. I know, like you say, just from a training point of view, but financially, if the offer comes for Croke Park, do you think that sort of Chantelle, yourself, the team will go with it? And how does a third fight play out? I know you talk about the referee and stuff like that in the second fight. Given a fair crack at the whip, we hope. How does it play out?
Listen, I think Chantelle won the first fight clearer than Katie won the second fight. I think that's fair to say. And I think it'll be an unbelievably competitive third fight. And I think it should be on neutral ground. That's the only thing. That's me. They're on my own opinions. I don't think you can ever question Katie Taylor because she's a phenomenon. I think Chantelle's the first fight was Chantelle's coming out party, and everyone realised how good she was. I think the head clash early on can't not have affected her performance going forward. Especially, little things like I couldn't get in the ring from the second round onwards.
The
I only had
knockdown
one
as
corner
well
left.
that wasn't scored.
Oh, listen, I know I've gone through this so many times. It was obviously not down. It's ridiculous that it wasn't. So we can't complain about what's happened in the past because listen, from the way it was refereed and from what you watched, it was a close fight for me. Could have gone either way, a round or two, and that was it. So um, I've no issue with the actual result. I just think that going into a third fight, it's a huge fight. It's a massive fight, and at least it should be on neutral ground.
Jamie, just moving forward, then Akib Fiaz faced his first professional loss. We know a bitter pill to swallow, but obviously, Assam been in the gym with you for a long time, and we know that Akib is a complete professional, and what a diamond of a bloke as well. What are the
Yeah.
conversations that you're having with him moving into 2024 from a training point of view? Probably or maybe going to have to go back into the deep end and stuff, but you believe he comes back stronger than ever?
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't perform that night. For whatever reason, I have had conversations with him early doors. The next day I met up with him, the week after, sort of let the dust settle, analysed it with him again, spoke about a few different things, and he's been through a lot. That kid over the last couple of years, and maybe it's a little bit more deep rooted than we understand. But I think we're on the right path to getting to the bottom of the reasons why he didn't quite perform.
Okay.
And I pulled him out of the fight because not just because he was hurt. I mean, he was probably on the verge of being okay or not to continue. It was a 50-50 call. It wasn't just about that. It was about the way he performed the whole fight up until that point, and then got into trouble. If he was boxing exactly how I wanted him to box and performing really well, and then got caught, absolutely I would have given him more time and a bigger chance to get through that scenario. But I've seen those situations unfold before. It only ever ends one way, especially when you're in there with a puncher like Bellotti. And the safest bet from a coach's point of view is to save him for another day without those psychological scars of maybe getting knocked out completely, and you have to come back from a deeper perspective.
Do you think yourself and Nigel, I referenced another fight with Mark Leach recently where Nigel made the sort of quite tough look, it's an emotional decision as well because you guys are with them throughout the camp as well. And not only are they your fighters, but they're friends and family. But do you think that, not saying it puts you different to the rest because all fighters have their own way of doing things, but maybe a little bit more sensitive when it comes to little things like that, knowing that fighters can re-come again?
You see, I think it's because of the relationship we have with our fighters. It's that decision that night wasn't based on emotion. Yeah, I have to sort of switch emotion off. So I understand people think you you're reacting from your emotions, but it's actually the opposite. I actually have to I have to forget, because when you think about it, if you care about someone that much, you want them to win, you actually give them too much time to try
Yeah,
and win,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it ends up too late. Whereas I'd rather err on the side of caution, and save him for another day, especially someone at the stage of Akib's career. You know, he's his 13th fight. He's a young lad. He's got loads of time to learn from the mistakes he made or the things he didn't do right, and then come back. You can't take risks with people in a fight like that when it wasn't going his way anyway, and he's in there with a puncher like below him. He was performed really well. He performed much better than I anticipated him that he was going to as well. I've got to give him credit.
Look, let's talk about Jack Catterall. Look, more often than not, unfortunately, it's almost like quite a frustrating time. Unless there's a fight announced or anything, it almost seems a little bit like in the dark and whatever. I spoke to Sam last week on an interview and we caught up and he said, look, if there was ever a chance for the Josh Taylor rematch to happen, it would be now. And that there was a deadline of a week or so. We heard that there was some form of a foreign interest. We don't quite know what that is, and I don't expect you to disclose or anything. But just on your side of stuff, just from what you're hearing, hopeful of that happening, and if not, like it's always been with you guys, active and the biggest fights.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think Jack and Taylor is always going to be a big fight, and especially because of what happened in the first fight, and this is the right time to make it now. I don't. If it doesn't happen now, I just can't see it happen in the future,
Mm.
because it's been made already 3 times and fell through, and then for it to sort of, from what I can tell, they're quite close to coming to an agreement, so which is great. I think it'll be a great fight for the fans. But if for whatever reason it doesn't happen this time again, then I just can't see it ever happening.
Are you a bit
And if it
sick of
doesn't,
in a weird way? Sorry to interrupt. Are you almost like a little bit sick of speaking about it in the point that you just either want it to happen or you just want to sort of cross that like bridge now?
I'd guess everyone involved in the whole situation is probably at that stage. Even Taylor, about Taylor's thinking the same thing. Thinking it doesn't happen by now, then it's never going to happen. And everyone's probably right. It's been 2 years nearly now since the first fight, and I'd say if it doesn't happen within the next sort of 3 to 6 months, then I just can't see it happening. And it won't be the end of the world. They'll move on and they'll have other fights, and that'll be it. But I think it'll be a shame if it never happens, because when young kids turning pro, when I was turning pro, I always thought to myself, oh, you want to be involved in a rivalry,
Mm.
like the Ben
You
Eubank
dream of
type of
those nights, yeah.
rivalry. Yeah, and you want somebody to come around at your weight around that time where you clash, or there's that little bit of needle, and it creates a bit of a story, and it grabs everyone's attention and gets them involved. And they've got that. So go along with it. Play the game, play the character. It's a great story, because when they look back in 10 years' time in the career, they'll want to have been involved in a rematch to pair of them.
From a training perspective, if that fight does happen, we expect it to be at like 143 or 144. Now we know Jack it doesn't need to move up at all, really, but it would just be cooperating in terms of getting the fight done. Josh no longer making 140. Um, does that bother you going up a few pounds to get that fight over the line?
Not really. It's Jack's quite a thick set, super lightweight anyway. So 3 pounds or so won't make a difference to me. I remember having a conversation with him during lockdown, and like everyone, he probably put a bit of weight on in between, and he was back training. He was always training through it. But I remember saying to him, "Can you probably be all right as a welterweight now? If you never sort of got back down to 10 stone, I don't think it'd be the end of the world." So I don't think it's without question that in a year or two, Jack could actually move up to 147. So I haven't got a question with it, especially to make if that was the only sticking point from making the rematch with Josh or not, then obviously let's just do it.
Well, Joe, just finally on Cameron, what a sort of bundle of fun that lad is. We know how well that he's got that little bromance with Jack, and certainly one that the UK boxing fans have definitely warmed to. A real good lad as well, and realistically, what a fighter! It's mad. I went on a run with him, and he was saying about how he nearly quit boxing and he was working jobs and everything, and it was always a goal to go further than he sort of did in the amateurs, but it was just right time, right moment. And God, I bet
Yeah.
he's happy he's gone with it now. Lots of activity. We know that the Newcastle show no longer on, but we're expecting him to be out a lot in 2024. Just buzz him for what he's got in store.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, he's a lovely kid. Really nice kid, nice family, and he's got loads of attention. He's pretty unusual. I've not really seen this type of reaction to someone turning pro in a long time. So it is nice to see. I'm glad um, we're there to sort of keep his feet on the ground. He's got to make sure he stays grounded. Don't get too carried away because everyone will be sort of bigging him up and patting him on the back, and a young lad like that can get carried away with himself. So it's good that he's round us. Nigel probably debag him a few times, keep him down to earth, and just make sure you sort of navigate this situation. I think the first sort of 12 months or so are dead important. Don't get carried away with yourself. Stay humble. Make sure at the end of the day, he's the opponents aren't tough what he's been matched with, but they're a lot better than the opponents you would generally match someone with in the first sort of 4, 5,
Yeah.
6 fights, which was always the plan because you don't want someone like him to go backwards or get a false sense of where they're at. But at the same time, he can't get carried away. He's not beating world beaters, but I've seen some of the stuff he can do, especially the sparring what he does with Jack. Jack always performs to the level of the person he's in there with. And when he's sparring with Cameron, he always has to be on his game. So that's a good sign. So, and they're going to be great for each other over the next couple of years because it's making Jack stay on his game as well.
Nice.
So yeah, they have got a nice little relationship going. They're good for each other. And Matchroom said they're going to keep him busy. They're talking about getting him away abroad. I think someone mentioned Cancun fighting over there. So I think they're going to take him around, get him some experience in terms of travelling as well, which will stand him in good stead for the future. And I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of the year they're putting him in. He'd be ready for boxing for 10-round title fights because they started him off on 6-rounders. His next fight's an 8-rounder. He's had 3 6s. He's straight into an 8. So I wouldn't say fast track, but I'd definitely say move quicker than your usual
Yeah.
prospect because he'll be ready for it quicker.
Well, Jamie, I don't want to keep you too long. I know that it is evening time and you're with the family. So just quickly on the world of boxing as a whole, we see Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou signed March the 8th out in Saudi Arabia. I suppose it goes one of two ways, really, doesn't it? The boxing fans are a lot of them happy to see it. A lot of them sort of, well, I say a lot of them, probably not as many as most, but disappointed as well because they don't like this sort of MMA and the hybrid fights. But Francis Ngannou put in a great performance against Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's a business. It's the fight that the Saudi Arabians want to see with Deontay Wilder losing. I personally get why it's been made. What do you think? A much improved AJ last time out.
Absolutely. Do you know what? Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I love the fight.
Same.
Like, really love the fight. I was actually quite intrigued with the Fury and Ngannou crossover fight because we was in the gym with Ngannou in
Okay.
UFC Performance Center in Vegas, end of 2019 when I was over there with Carl Frampton. He can fucking fight. Like we was in the gym and we was watching him and we was going, oh, he can really can do it. So he was working on his boxing stuff only then 2019. And the conversation was in the gym, you know what? If he turned pro, I bet he'd do something. Then fast forward sort of 3.5, 4 years, he's boxing Fiore. So I was intrigued to see how he was going to get on. But I was sort of thinking in the back of my mind, Fury's just too good for him technically, which it turned out to be eventually, but only just. Now, for me, this is a massively intriguing fight because one, Joshua's not as sort of evasive, if you like, as Fury in that style, although he has massively improved. And I thought he looked the best he's looked in a long time in his last fight. Got to give him massive credit for the way he performed last time out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there and does an absolute number on Ngannou, and then everyone goes like, shit, he did that, and Fury struggled. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I know it's not sort of a final eliminator for a world title, or your general move in the right direction fight. But friggin' hell, from an excitement point of view and an intrigue point of view, it's a huge fight.
Me personally, in terms of the fact that sort of we expect him to fight Hrgovic for the vacant belt and stuff, and then the belt's not to be fragmented for a little while, we sort of kind of get it there as well, right?
Mate, I'd rather see Ngannou and Joshua than him fight Hrgovic. In fact, at this moment in time, since the fight been made, if you said to me now, would you rather see Fury versus Usyk or AJ versus Ngannou? So if someone said to me, you can go and sit ringside now, but you can only go to one of them, I'm going AJ and Ngannou, definitely.
I see. I have the buzz around that fight as well, but I think there's just because it's an MMA guy. But then I
understand the purist point of view where they're going, nah, I don't like that fight. I don't like these crossover fights.
But with the performance he put in with Fury, I feel like
exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that he's got one fight under his belt against the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, and he did really well, then you've got to then go, well, why not? Let's see it and see what happens.
It's an interesting,
clever fight. Tell you what, from a business point of view,
it's a genius. Like, and it's even bigger than, because we get why there was naysayers for Fury and Ngannou, but now with the way that went commercially, and you've got the UFC champ against Joshua, he's marketing superstar in his own right. It is a no-brainer, and it's the Wilder fight done.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. No complaints from me.
Just lastly, Fury Usyk. It's mad, isn't it? Because hindsight's such a mad thing in this sport, as my dog goes mad next to me. Obviously, Usyk, off the back of that Dubois fight, everyone was like, oh, this is like Fury's going to pummel him. Then Fury has that fight with Ngannou. It's interesting, right? How do you see it? Maybe not the most exciting fight stylistic.
I've got a feeling that Fury's going to use his size. I think he's seen there's a few little vulnerabilities with Usyk. You saw with Del Boy the way he just simplified it and just walked him down. And Fury's done that in the past and made it messy, lent on his opponents, got on the inside. He's not actually a bad body puncher himself, Fury. And I've got a feeling that he might just go in there and just put it on Usyk, because he might feel like, just generally the size of him, Usyk really can't hurt him in many ways, and he'll feel like he can just go in there and utilize his natural abilities and get on the inside and drag him into a dogfight. Basically, I feel like that's what he's going to do.
Well, Jamie, I've picked your brains for long enough now. I'm going to let you go on and get back with the family. But thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, brother. Just a final message ahead of 2024. A big year last year, and it looks like this year what could be even bigger for you and your guys.
Mate, it could be. And, God willing, all the guys get the fights they want. Everyone stays safe, stays healthy. And we have another successful year, yeah.
Jamie Moore, top man, and thank you for speaking to us at Boxing Social.
We need to think of a new advert for freebets.com.
Get your best betting offers from freebets.com.
Yeah, that'll do.
The following deals are now live.